All right. We are live. Hello. How's it going, Dan? How's your day been?
It has been a day.
It has been a day.
Hear me all right? Yeah, I woke up at various times throughout the day, but really at about 5 p.m. So,
Okay.
it's off to a strong start.
Nice. It's been a day. Mainly just working. I was buried in work emails today, which is like the bane of my existence every Monday.
That sounds pretty rad. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know, man. Coming into like 300 emails, not 300. That's an exaggeration. More like 150 emails. Kind of like kills your day. Makes you like just not want to do anything.
Yeah, I haven't been doing anything since Mulan was supposed to come out, so I feel it. Or I don't feel it, actually. I can't feel it whatsoever. I finished Breaking Bad. That's been my work project.
Okay. I mean, finishing Breaking Bad's like
5 whole seasons. Yeah.
It's like a good start.
Oh.
Thanks. Yeah, I wouldn't have caught that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's not like we're professionals. It's okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, so quick rundown. Did you do anything exciting this weekend? Did you watch anything exciting? Or just did you sleep all weekend?
I mean, as I said, finished Breaking Bad, which I still think is probably up there with The Shield for best ending of a TV show ever. I don't know what you would put up there. I really like Battlestar Galactica, but it's a bit messy in parts, so I couldn't say best.
See, I watch garbage television, so like...
You know what? Cheers has a good ending. You watched the end of Cheers.
Okay, so Cheers has an okay ending.
I'm just trying to think of things that you watched and finished, because Hell's Kitchen never ends.
Frasier's ending is not great. It's not terrible, but it's not great. I'm very fond of... The Battlestar Galactica ending is pretty good. Newsroom, no, that had a bad ending. That last season was trash. A lot of the shows I like just have bad endings. Like they start out really great and then they fizzle out to like a mediocre ending at the end. So it's not good.
Yeah, I also really liked Mad Men and The Wire to some extent. I think kind of had good endings, but other than that, like
I was gonna say Mad Men I think has a good ending from what I've heard. I've never watched Mad Men though, so that's on me.
It's really good, but it is.
Okay, actually, Community ends after season 3 for me personally, so that's a good ending.
Yeah, but it doesn't, and it's. I mean, I like seasons 5 and 6.
I heard they're fine.
Different. Yeah, no, they're good. I would say they're still good. Like the jokes are really solid.
Season 4 killed that show for me.
I understand. Yeah.
Community, what a good show that burned itself so hard. Yeah.
Yeah, season 4 is unwatchable for me, but
the Comic-Con...
I do still like season 5 and 6. I wouldn't put it at like top tier though. That's the problem.
I don't even think season...
I think. Oh, and Watchmen, if you consider that an ending of a show, is just self-contained though. So
I like Westworld. I like Westworld. That's like the one show that I do watch. And
did you watch the Jesse Pinkman season? Aaron Paul?
That's not out yet.
Isn't it?
No,
I think it already came out and no one liked it.
That's this season of Westworld. Yeah.
Is it currently airing?
I don't think it's started yet. Let me look.
I feel like that already happened. It's possible. I mean, it's COVID time, so who knows? Maybe it was supposed to happen and it got delayed or something.
You know what? It did come out in March.
Yeah, that's why I was like, dude, no one talked about that show. We were all trapped inside, and still I saw no one talk about Westworld. So, like, I don't think people liked that season.
So I'm looking at, like, the reception for it. It says it has okay reviews, so I don't know. Maybe I'll go check it out.
Daredevil wasn't planning for that to be the last season, but I think that's a good last season of a show.
Yeah, I like that last season of Daredevil. It's decent.
But yeah, other than Breaking Bad, which I still think is probably best TV show, I watched season 4 of Arrested Development fully. It's not terrible. It's still probably my least favorite season, but there's kind of nothing you can do about a show that comes back after so much time. But I do think the re-edit, like, the jokes were actually really solid, and I didn't not enjoy any of my time.
I guess we'll find.
I also knew what they were setting up and where it was going overall, so it was really more just the jokes I was there for. But all the performances are still solid.
I guess we'll find out how you really feel when you watch season 5. I think that'll be.
I'm a couple episodes in, and outside of the whole Jeffrey Tambor stuff, it's not terrible. Like, I really enjoy Michael Cera and the actress that plays Maybe. I'm not gonna remember her name, but those two I really enjoy. And Will Arnett, I always enjoy in anything until it gets incredibly depressing, which is most of his things. So
I mean,
I've been enjoying that.
I've seen the first couple episodes of BoJack Horseman, so like
I watched like the first 3 seasons, and then I have kept up to date with what happened, but I couldn't bring myself to watch it. It's a lot.
Emily's staring at me, and she just like mouthed the word BoJack at me. Is that one of your favorite shows?
I liked it a lot.
Okay.
I didn't finish it.
Yeah, but that's
I
like
the second part of the last season.
That's fair. I like I said, I've only seen the first 2 episodes. I know it's like somewhat depressing.
Only a little. Only once in a great while.
The second episode is him and the Muffins, and Patton Oswalt, I think, does the voice of the seal, Neil the Seal or whatever.
Probably.
Yeah. Anyway, what did I do this weekend? I watched the movies we're going to talk about. I then also watched more of Star Trek: The Next Generation. That's really all I'm watching right now. There's nothing. There's a new show I want to watch, but I thought it was on Amazon Prime, and it's not. It's on Peacock, I think is what it's called. I want to watch Brave New World.
I don't know what that is.
It's like a dystopian future type show. It's got the dude who played Han Solo from A Star Wars Story. Hi, Aura.
Oh, Alden Ehrenreich?
Yeah, so I want to get around to that, or get off that train and try and watch some like newer shows that have come out. I'm just so like... Actually, I should finish Chernobyl. I have like an episode left of Chernobyl that I need to watch.
Yeah, that was one of the best shows. It was that and Watchmen are like 2 of the best shows that have come out in, I'd say, maybe the past 5 years.
Yeah, I watched the first several, it's not several, how many episodes it is, like the first 3/4 of it with Emily, and then I don't know what happened. I think I just stopped watching it, or the person whose HBO account I was using reset their password on me. It was one of the two.
Barry, I would love to have finished by now, but unfortunately, now I don't know someone with HBO, so it's not the cards.
Yeah, so it's just like, I guess I'm not finishing this, but we did our Hitman Let's Play. Talk about that real quick. We started playing that. I like to murder early on in the game when you're not supposed to murder.
You adapted to the learning curve really quickly, I would say. Because you can go, there's 2 ways you can go with it. Pure stealth game, or what if I just killed everybody? And you realize that it's right down the middle is usually what's best.
Yeah. So that's live on my YouTube page. For those of you that are watching right now, go ahead and check that out. We'll record the next episode later this week. I genuinely enjoyed it. My favorite part was when we dropped the sports car on the 2 mechanics as a joke to see how it would look. That was pretty satisfying.
It really is a weird murder playground.
Yeah, it really is. But today's topic, we are going to be talking about the X-Men films, which you're going to lead. But before we jump into the first three X-Men films, let me clarify. Before we jump into that, I don't know if you saw it on Twitter. I think I tagged you in it or something. But Shia LaBeouf was trending with X-Men because he's viewed to be Iceman in whatever the MCU reboot is supposed to be.
Here's the thing. I think it was from like We Got This Covered or Cosmic Book News, so I don't think any of this is real per se. But once I started thinking about it, he could be a good Bobby Drake if they actually wanted to make that a character this time and go for who Iceman is in the comics, which MCU seems to be doing across the board most times. So he could be interesting. I think it would be odd if they're going to go like mid-30s for all their X-Men. Because that's why Wolverine is reported to they're trying to go younger. So, like, I don't know. Yeah, you know, the weird part with the MCU is you have to figure out, like, okay, well, was he from another timeline, or has he been here since then? How do mutants work? And then get into the nitty-gritty of that. But if we were just talking a standalone X-Men film, I could see it. I don't see Shia LaBeouf as wanting to do a Disney movie, especially after his David Ayer, Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans, whatever it was. Where he plays
the drug cartel, I think is what it's called, or something like that.
Like, raised by Latin Americans, but he's a white guy thing.
Yeah.
Where every single reaction I've seen from it has been like, well, he was all right to watch, but like the movie's just terrible.
I mean, that's kind of David Ayer's track record post Fury. So.
Yeah, Suicide Squad I think broke him in some way.
Well, then he did the Max Landis movie after that, and that was a total disaster as well.
Ugh. Don't talk about Bright. And don't say his name. Don't say that name.
Oh, sorry. Thou shall not be spoken.
Shall not be named.
Yeah. So yeah, well, I want to bring that up, and then I don't think I have too much else to touch on for the beginning of this, unless there's anything you want to talk about real quick.
Well, I don't think I checked with you, and I don't think last time Mulan had gone to Disney Plus 100%. If that was confirmed this week.
It was confirmed. It was confirmed later in the week after we did last week's episode.
Okay. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to be looking for a job 100%.
Oh yeah, this
I understand the business of it, but like $30 to unlock it on your account forever, especially if you live in like Chicago, where a ticket would be like $15 to $20 anyway.
Yeah.
Why would you go to
And I guess my question is,
if it wasn't to own, it'd be a different conversation. But the fact that it's like
it's so like I have Disney Plus until I don't even remember when that signed up. I should check when that expires on my account. But I have Disney Plus for a year for free through Verizon. So I'm probably gonna keep it because I do like being able to watch The Simpsons. That's nice having that on there, and all the Marvel movies are on there. That's like the big selling point for me.
Yeah, I just have all the ones that I really like on Blu-ray, and The Simpsons is great, but I just outside of that, it's like I remember telling my mom like, oh hey, you should I've got an account you can sign on. And she was like, oh, what's on there? And I was like, Disney movies. And she was like, well, I don't want to watch like the animated kids movies. And I was like, well, you don't like The Simpsons.
She can watch Artemis Fowl
movies. You don't like Star Wars. Oh yeah, there's nothing for you. And that's kind of how I feel. Is like I really like the Marvel stuff once they start putting the TV shows out there. But like honestly, $30 for Black Widow. Like if you paid for it, that'd be great. Then I could watch it on the account. I wouldn't do that. Yeah, I don't care.
I don't think that price holds because the one report from the Variety article is it's a testing price point to see if it sticks. So I have
hilarious if that was 30 and then Black Widow's like it's $70 now.
Yeah, like I'm just curious to see if like the $30 price point sticks. I think 20 is doable.
I think they could get away pricing them like a video game, honestly. If you said like, hey, for your whole family or whoever you're sharing this account with, it's $60, they'd get away with it. It's Disney. People are insane.
Yeah,
people are going to Disney World right now. So
I
anything. They're like Nintendo fans, but for the weird castle.
I keep forgetting Disney World's even open right now. I thought they were still closed. But then again, Florida is like a disaster of a state to begin with. So
yeah, we're doing great over here.
Yeah, America's 10 out of 10 and failing, obviously.
But the only other thing I wanted to touch on before we got into something is I started compiling a list just for this bit here. Okay. But I've only got 5 names so far, and it's just names I come across in Destiny 2 that I think are very, very good.
Okay. Hit me with them.
We can rank, just have a best one and see if anyone ever gets dethroned. We've got Oops, All Raisins, which isn't necessarily hilarious, but I just liked the phrasing of it.
Oops, All Raisins.
Yeah. Pee Pee Poo Poo Man.
Okay,
That's a good Steam name. Kickstart My Shart. That was a choice. And then the top two, I think it's really between Dad Scissorer and Fart Zuckerberg.
Ooh.
I'm leaning towards Fart Zuckerberg.
Yeah, I think Fart Zuckerberg is probably the best one, because that's
what I thought. It was the first one I came across, and it's what made me start compiling a list. We'll see if anyone can ever dethrone him.
I would have to wager the person that came across that probably feels like super like happy and clever about what they did.
It could be a reference to something as well. It could be from something, but it doesn't matter to me because it's the best thing that I saw in the past month.
Yeah. Yeah, I will let you take it away with the first 3 X-Men films. So,
all right, I figured I'd go kind of chronologically and just start with X1 and the all the mistakes therein. I'd say the way I took notes is I just thought about all the movies before I watched them and then added stuff in as I went.
Okay.
So like my greatest takeaways before I had rewatched them was that they have near perfect casting. Besides, for me, Jean Grey, I don't think. It's a weird age disparity between, like, I don't know how old the X-Men are all supposed to be.
Yeah,
supposed to be set up.
She is
because even when they explain it later, it doesn't make any sense. So they're all like, we went to school here. But
okay.
We're 30 to 40 years old. And I don't think she's, I don't think Jean Grey is done correctly in any of these movies.
She could be better. She's not who I think is the worst person in the first movie. We'll continue.
No. We're getting there. Sabretooth is hilarious.
Sure.
I don't know why they did that, why those choices were made, but that's not a great one for me. And then Storm. Whatever Halle Berry was going for with that accent, some of the times they were filming. Whoa.
The funny thing is like I like Halle Berry in other roles, but not as the role of Storm. That is probably one of her.
Off the top of my head, I think the only thing I like Halle Berry in is John Wick 3.
Oh man, that's fair. She's okay in Die Another Day. That's a James Bond movie.
Yeah, I've never seen that one.
She's one of the
what
better.
Was the character's name?
Hang on.
I bet it was stupid.
She's one of the better parts in Cloud Atlas with Tom Hanks, but that's saying a lot.
I really only know it from the Rick and Morty jokes, so I'm gonna go with I'm sure that movie's probably fine.
And she's good in Monsters Ball, but that's she won an Academy Award for that.
Say, yeah.
Yeah.
Who was the worst actor to you in the first one?
All right, hang on. Halle Berry's name is Jinx Johnson in Die Another.
Actually, that's not.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought like Christmas only came once a year. Like that's a good. All right.
Yeah. Okay. So who did I think were the worst actors in the first X-Men movie? So this movie's 20 years old, and I know some of these people are kind of better than they are.
Oh yeah, they all got better. Like you watched Westworld, you saw that James Marsden can really do something.
James Marsden can act. He's fine as Cyclops. He actually does a decent job as Cyclops. So Halle Berry is the first one. Halle Berry shouldn't be Storm. But then again, at the time, I'm trying to think about who would be Storm in like 2000, like actual 2000. So I'm a little off on that. And then after that, Anna Paquin as Rogue was awful. And I know for a fact she does not get better throughout those movies.
Yeah, by X3, they really don't care about her at all. I don't know. I think it's partially a weird thing of having grown up with some of these movies is that I never saw her as that terrible, especially amongst what they're doing there. Her accent's not great, but, you know.
I think it's... I don't know if it's her, because I've seen her in True Blood. I know she can kind of act. It's more so...
What she has to do.
Yeah, the accent's bad. She's a runaway, and my pre-notion of Rogue in the comics is entirely different, and especially from the TV show.
Yeah, I can understand that if you want the Rogue that gets Captain Marvel's powers and flies around and punches through buildings. Yeah. That's the thing, is coming into it before... See, I watched the Spider-Man animated series, but the X-Men one, I only caught occasional ones, and they were usually at that point like part 6 of 12 of the Phoenix Saga.
Yeah, I grew.
And you can just watch an episode and you're like, oh, cool.
I was the opposite. I grew up on the X-Men. I watched the Spider-Man one later when I got older, but I watched the X-Men one first because I was actually 2 years in a row for Halloween. I was Wolverine, so.
Oh, nice. I came comics first, so I understood that Rogue, before she met that person, really only did have that power. So for me, it was like, oh yeah, that's Rogue, and I always liked the moments of like her draining Logan's power to be able to like. Heal herself and things like that.
And that's my thing is this movie for 20 years old, outside of like I think I messaged you saying the color grading on it's god awful. And
Yeah. The filmmaking is an entirely separate thing that I'll get into. We just needed to run
Yeah.
down the cast.
Yeah,
I think.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay. They nailed 3 central characters.
Okay.
Instantly.
Let's see if we agree on this.
Patrick Stewart.
Yep.
Ian McKellen.
Yep.
And then the fact that they got Hugh Jackman as a replacement, like as they were filming,
Yep.
is crazy because he's perfect.
I was gonna say
Like, he
that
throws into Logan through the 3 movies, but like he knew what he's perfect. I don't know if there's a better, like people say like Ryan Reynolds for Deadpool, Robert Downey Jr., but he's up there for like just best casting for a character. And the fact that everything molded around this movie, even in the comics afterwards, like they started drawing Patrick Stewart. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, it's influential to say. And actually with Hugh Jackman, I think that is not his first role, but it's his breakthrough role. So let me jump down to his filmography real quick. So yeah, he had only been in 2 movies prior to landing the role of Logan in X-Men, and I hate to even talk about this show, but it vaguely reminds me of Entourage in a sense, except he's just not a shitbag like Vinny. How Vinny gets the Aquaman role and he becomes like a super huge star. That's kind of like the blow up for Hugh Jackman. But yeah, he had been in a movie called Erskineville Kings and Paperback Hero, neither of which I've ever heard of.
Nope. But we should also real quick touch on the fact that the director's a monster. Allegedly. Seems like a lot of people. The allegations are more fact than but allegations, sure. All the Bryan Singer stuff. There was even articles that came out like on the 20-year anniversary of the movie, going like, "Oh, let's talk about how this enabled a monster," and how he, got in arguments on set and wouldn't show up half the time and be late.
For X-Men back in the day,
continued directing. Yeah, X-Men 1. Like he was just a pile of garbage even from then.
Wow.
There were allegations from the kid who played Pyro in the first one. He's not the same one in the second one, but he had allegations. There's multiple levels of like everything. He's been a monster for at least 20 years.
Yeah,
allegedly.
I'm not shocked because he got removed from the set.
This is after Usual Suspects.
Yeah.
So he's already golden poster boy. And the movie was already like Kevin Feige at this point is like he occasionally pipes up and says, "Hey, you should do it this way," and they go, "No." But he's starting to get in there more so with Spider-Man, and then everything going further. But like it's clear that because trying to think of its contemporaries, like Blade had hit, and Blade was great, but that's an R-rated movie, vampires, different kind of thing. This is the first one that really hit and made a ton of money. And if you think about them trying to make it, the script seems secondary to the casting in some senses, and also we should touch on the fact that I don't know if you know that Michael Jackson wanted to play Professor X. Did you know that?
No, I don't. So I don't know a lot of history about the making of this movie.
Let me just finish this real quick because he came in and they were like, "Well, I don't know if you know, but he's a disabled white man." And instead of Michael Jackson saying, "Oh, it's okay," like we can just change it because like who cares about race, he went, "I'll wear makeup." So we were very close to getting like a Marlon Brando white-faced Michael Jackson being Professor X. This is around the time he was also lobbying to be Jar Jar Binks.
I didn't know he lobbied to try and beat Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, he had beef with Ahmed Best.
That's
because he was like, oh, that's the guy you chose, George?
That's
fine.
Fucking crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
So
but anyway.
All right, let me unpack some of this real quick. I'll unpack the Bryan Singer stuff first. I can't believe he was that troublesome all the way back then, especially with a studio like Fox overseeing the production of their tentpole $80 million movie back in 2000.
Yep. There were parts where, like, I know there's a direct quote that the cast all like to joke about where Halle Berry told him to kiss her black ass because he's outrageous even back then. But he was the wonderkind that made that movie, so
because up until that point, so before X-Men, he did Lion's Den, Public Access, and then he did The Usual Suspects, and then he did a movie called Art Pupil, which I think is the cat being shoved in the oven. Because it's Ian McKellen and who's the other kid? Brad Renfro, I think is the kid's name. Yeah, Brad Renfro. There's a scene where like Ian McKellen makes the kid put a cat in an oven and burn the cat. That's a whole other
right.
Yeah, it's a anyway. I can't believe this dude has this much clout just off of the back of Usual Suspects, because man, I don't know. It's so weird. Because to me, he's still like an unproven director at the point of making X-Men.
No, there's quotes from executives saying his behavior was poor on the movie. We accommodated him on the first movie, and therefore we can accommodate him on the second movie, and on, and it created a monster.
Yeah, they birthed a monster essentially, because he didn't want to do the third one, and he instead chose to do Superman Returns. Right? Does that sound right?
We'll get to that. We'll get to that when we get to X3.
Okay, back to X1.
Well, no, because to get into back of it, there's a Hollywood Reporter article that's really in depth if you want to get into it. But Chris McQuarrie was brought in for a rewrite in summer of '98. It already had a $75 million budget, and there was already allegations against him from other parties that they were settling while they were in pre-production on the movie. Joss Whedon came in for a rewrite. And then at a certain part, they found out that David Hayter, who was working as Bryan Singer's assistant, just answering phones, Bryan Singer would come out and go like, hey, I need a scene where, like, this happens. And then he was writing it, and that's why he has writing credit on the movie, is they found out, like, oh, this kid's doing all the work. This kid loves X-Men comics, so he's just writing an X-Men comic for certain scenes where you're like, oh, that's Wolverine, that's this character. And then other parts where you're like, this doesn't work. But yeah, he made $500 a week. Answering phones.
I guess I just can't understand how troubled that movie was and how it actually turned out. Hey, Lightbender, how's it going? I saw you just popped up in chat. But yeah, I just can't understand how troubled that movie had to have been. Like, that set sounds like a nightmare. And the fact that they even made... Because the plot is secondary throughout most of that movie. It's more so the cast and the tone of the cast that makes it work. So yeah. the fact they even got anything on screen is amazing.
No, I mean, even a lot of extra roles and tiny cameos were minor, younger men, 16, 17-year-old boys.
Of course.
Like, so it's a lot just from this article. And it's like, and that's just one article collecting some stuff. And it's like, and that's when you get into, like, even going further back than this, it's even worse, because this is when things started to change. People where we're at now and everything else. But, old Hollywood movies are all made by monsters. So at a certain point when you're watching, pretty much any movie made in the 70s, you have to assume that people are doing terrible things because that's how society was. How do you take something that, like, all three of these movies, by the way, because Brett Ratner is not a good dude either.
Brett Ratner sucks.
How do you take, like, oh yeah, I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and then you're like, well, I guess I don't. Do you rewatch those three movies? Like, so that's a weird thing to take in as you're watching the movie. It's just going like, oh, not only is this, like, slapped together by, like, hope and dreams, it's, like, headed by a monster that from this kept just escalating. Like, the fact that X-Men Apocalypse, they're all like, hey, he just wasn't on set. This was essentially, who's the writer? He then did Dark Phoenix. Simon Kinberg. He essentially directed that movie. So it's just incredible.
Yeah, it is insane when you think about it. And I guess my thing is Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. Ian McKellen probably doesn't give a shit because he's already worked with Bryan Singer at this point. Patrick Stewart, though, I feel like has to be respected enough to just tell that dude to fuck off at some point.
I mean, that's how Hollywood, only, like, up until Weinstein, all of this stuff was like, oh, that's just how the business works. Like, for some reason, just like how politics is having a sea change, like, certain things, they're just no longer acceptable. But people just didn't care. Because, like, as I said, like, he was in allegations before the movie, during the movie, after the movie, and then X2, and then he gets a Superman movie. Yeah, like,
I guess the thing is like, social media and media in general are so vastly different compared to 20 years ago, especially when those allegations were against him, because those had to have come from the 90s. So the internet isn't as prevalent, and there's no Twitter or Facebook to share all of this information into the vacuum that is the social media circuit. So it probably just kind of got swept under the rug until everything changed in the last, like, 3-4 years.
Well, it's similar to, like, when Brett Ratner finally had allegations. I remember going like, yeah, that was, like, known. Like, I knew that, and I'm just on film Twitter.
Yeah.
So, like, there are certain people that you already know are scumbags, but, like, that's just how the world works for some reason, and Woody Allen keeps putting out movies, so it's like,
Also, Brett Ratner at the 84th Oscars. Don't know if you know what happened in that one.
No.
He used a slur on set of rehearsal, and...
Oh, and then he got... Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just none of them...
No.
It's just... That's why a part of... Well, we'll get to it at the end, but so trying to separate the movie from the director is a weird thing, but at the same time, I do have nostalgia for the movie and the performances. So, I don't know. I do think, like, for instance, like, having the opening scene with Magneto, or...
Jean Grey. Yeah.
Like, they make some choices in that movie that I think are
so
surprising.
Yeah, it's every character is pretty much nailed for what they're supposed to be for the most part. And there's choices that are made in the movie that I think set the tone for what an X-Men film is supposed to feel like. Like the opening with Magneto as a child at Auschwitz. And then you immediately transition into Jean Grey talking in front of Congress or something along those lines, Senate, I think.
Something, yeah.
And talking about like why you shouldn't pass this law and all this stuff, and it's just it sets the tone. It sets the tone of what you want this to be. It's just once you get to the main plot of that movie, it just kind of feels just okay.
Kind of it's the, I think, first instance of beam of light going into the sky that we have to stop.
Yes.
Yeah. The originator. Kevin Feige saw it and he was like, we need to do this some more.
Yeah, it's...
Amazing Spider-Man 1 should have a beam of light the same.
It does indeed have a beam of light.
But, like, I think that's a choice. I think certain performances are still good. I think the other things that stuck out to me were the special effects for Senator Kelly. Have not aged well, but I remember at the time going like, "Oh wow, that's cool. That's a mutant power." But now I'm just like, "All right, he's like, one of those weird, like gummy fish that can just kind of he collapsed into water."
Yeah,
he came out nude at a beach and scared Stan Lee.
Yeah, his effects aren't, because I watched it on my phone today while I was working.
As Christopher Nolan intended.
Yes, and the effects didn't look terrible. I had more of an issue because I think I'm just spoiled by like the standard of action films at this point.
Is it the wire work?
The wire work in that movie is insane and not in a good
all
way.
Of them, yeah.
Yeah. Toad was still cool. I forgot Toad was in the film.
That's the other thing is I think it's clear that sometimes there were people who knew comics at the helm and then other times not. Because like if you gave me a chance to give you like 10 X-Men that would be interesting visually, Toad would not be one unless you want it to be like a straight up like for kids movie.
Yeah.
It's like, it's stupid. And also Ray Park, that's a whole other conversation. But
yeah,
like, the whole tongue grab is just not visually, it's stupid. And then spitting his weird mucus onto Jean Grey that doesn't do anything other than like, I can't breathe under this. I gotta zap it with lasers.
Yeah.
It's just, it's good for the time. But man, it could have been so much more. It's so close in so many aspects.
Yeah, it's definitely
like Toad and Sabretooth are not. I know that in the comics those are two people that are on the Brotherhood, but like, boy,
I'm just trying to think.
Sabretooth looks so doofy. Especially when you get into later movies, that's supposed to be like, oh, that's your estranged brother, right? He's like, no, not yet. He's not Liev Schreiber, not until 2000.
Not until 2009. Not until we retcon stuff. No, I guess for me, if I were to like pick my Brotherhood members first, so let's just do it this way. If I were to pick like who I'd want for the Brotherhood, Mystique was perfect. Mystique,
that one is perfect.
Yeah, the effects still look really good. Yeah,
holds up.
Yeah, I was gonna say Mystique holds up effects wise, and then the actress who portrays Mystique is still like amazing. It does an amazing job. With if I was to pick other members for the Brothers, I only get two more. Sabretooth's fine. It's not the best choice.
Just don't do what they did. He literally roars with like a lion roar at one point. They just overdub it.
Oh yeah, there's a point in the movie when they're in a train station to go rescue Rogue and Logan again the second time. He gets hit with a fucking lightning bolt by Storm, and I'm just like, you should be dead. That should kill you.
Sabretooth though. I mean, knowing what we know from the comics, he can heal.
Yes, but
only knowing what we know, the movie doesn't really set up a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
the thing is, even visually, you know,
he looks
the fight with Sabretooth on the top of Statue of Liberty.
Oh god,
when Wolverine swings around, even though wooden adamantium just cut. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it's a lot of Ugh.
It's a lot of
A lot
oof.
of that has aged poorly.
It's
I would say.
the first movie is very it's very of its time. It's very early 2000s. It's got the color grading for it. It's got the 2000s edgy drama in it, and I guess
One moment I think that does work. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
The moment that works for me, I think the best moment in the whole movie is after the Mystique fight with Wolverine,
Mhm.
and he comes back and talks to Scott, and they're like, "How do we know you're you?" And he just gives him the middle finger, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's Logan.
Yeah,
That's perfect."
That's
Like that's probably a David Hayter moment or a Joss Whedon moment.
like that functions still. Like that's perfect.
And then also the moment with the standoff with Magneto and all of the cops' guns. I think that's certain moments they really nailed. Like, yep, no, they got him.
Yeah, there's moments that actually like show the powers really well, and display the characters like they should be. That's one of them. But I was gonna say, if I were to pick Brotherhood members, I would get rid of Sabretooth. I'd get rid of Toad. I would use Avalanche. I think that's a character, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would use him, and I don't know, maybe. Sorry, there's a cat.
I mean,
in front of me.
Pyro makes sense later. I get that they were setting it up. Hey, kitty.
Doctor.
Yeah, but I guess Avalanche, and then maybe like I don't know. Is there something similar to fucking Sabretooth that's not Sabretooth?
I mean, there's a lot of Wolverine also rans. I don't know. There's like 100. There's Strong Guy. There's 150,000 mutants, so this could take a bit.
Yeah, no,
like,
you just pick one. Pick one that's not
but
Sabretooth.
also, like, even if you do Toad or something like that, it's just that's what you choose to do with them. I just it never worked for me.
Yeah.
Even in
Oh,
the comics, Toad is weird.
and for the
but-
people watching and listening, the quick rundown of what the plot of this movie is it's gotta protect Anna Paquin or Rogue from Magneto. Magneto needs her to go onto his MacGuffin. The MacGuffin's gonna turn all of the leaders of the free world into mutants, so they then have to not be prejudiced against mutants. That is
But then
the
also all of those mutants are going to melt in like 2 weeks time.
they're gonna
afterwards. It doesn't
become
work.
yeah, they're gonna become little jellyfish and implode into water because
Yeah.
Magneto's plan doesn't work. That is the general synopsis of the movie. There's a few things I'm leaving out in detail, like Mystique breaks into the X Mansion, and
That was one of the things I wanted to bring up. Is I remember even when I saw it. So what, 2000? So I was 9. When she sabotages a Magneto or Cerebro, it just she injects a thing and it like poisons it.
Yeah.
How does that work? What do you think that is? Because the second movie has a lot of Cerebro sabotage that doesn't make any sense either. How does Cerebro work?
I think Cerebro, in terms of the movie, maybe even in the comics, is one of the most poorly explained devices ever.
Just the fact that you can go in and go like, I put the bad juice in it. He won't be able to use it now.
Yeah,
it's very silly.
I mean they do it because they have to write him out of the plot, so he can't do anything.
No, I know it's what they do with Quicksilver later on, where they're like, well, we can't have him around, and they're like, all right, just do something. The only other terrible part I wanted to mention was, do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning?
I don't. I'm actually just reading one of the comments in chat. We'll answer your comment in a second. Look at it.
It's the same thing that happens to everything else.
Does he become fried?
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't.
Yeah. Ugh.
I assume he just gets imploded.
I just think the biggest takeaway from the first movie, I think, is just the outfits and the general style.
Dude, I hated the costumes. I thought they were cool when I was a kid, and as an adult, I'm just looking at them like, these are fucking atrocious. But it's what you can do. It's the only thing you can do, though, I guess, in 2000 to make it look okay, because 90s X-Men will look...
Blade and the Matrix were huge, so it's
yes.
like, all right, they gotta be all wearing black leather.
I was gonna say 90s X-Men would look too ridiculous, I think, at that point in life.
But they even make the joke about it of like, oh, what
Would
do
you
you want? Yellow spandex? And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I did actually.
You
never
know
got
what?
Wolverine to dress like Wolverine.
Yeah, you know what? It turns out that's what I wanted. Weird. But yeah, my biggest takeaways are Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen are leagues above everyone else in terms of the acting they do and the performances. And then Hugh Jackman, you can see the birth of like a star, I guess, right there. And then it's an okay comic book movie. I genuinely enjoyed it as a kid. I know you love X-Men probably more than I do now as an adult. I definitely loved them growing up, and that was like my childhood right there for me. More so than when I saw Spider-Man. Spider-Man was really the pinnacle of. I was like, comic book movies can't get better than this.
Yeah, no. Spider-Man 2, that's the best movie there'll ever be.
So we have a question in the chat. Lightbender asks, do you think they make Magneto too much of a villain in the movies? I remember being so torn between who's bad and who's good in the comics, but in the movie they make it more biased.
I think they do better later on, but definitely in the first three with Ian McKellen, he's kind of just cartoon bad guy. Like, he comes in, he's kind of camping it up. He knows what movie he's in.
Yeah, he knows what he's making.
It's you know, there's pathos and there's, you know, a character there, and he's brought onto these decisions by the, you know, events of World War II and the Holocaust. But also, you know, he has to give grandiose speeches while dressing like Magneto, talking to a saber-tooth man, and this guy's like a toad. So, like, he knows it's goofy. I think they have to do the point the guns at all the cops' heads, because if they did a nuanced conversation about the rights of the underprivileged, they're not going to pull that off.
No, it's I think starting a First Class, which is those movies are another conversation for another day. But
yeah,
the portrayal of Magneto in First Class forward, I think, is a better portrayal of what Magneto kind of is in the comics.
Like anti-hero elements and stuff like that. But even in X-Men 2, they're like, we'll work together, but clearly he's still a cartoon bad guy.
Real quick, my favorite moment with Magneto in the comics it's from a 2000 run. I'd have to look it up, but I remember Zorn being the coolest character.
The Grant Morrison run in
X-Men. Yeah, I remember Zorn being the coolest character ever, and then because I'd read these at the library, and then the reveal is it's Magneto, and I'm like, I've been bamboozled this whole time.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Another one of those of like, how does that make sense? And they're like, just it does not matter, really. Just stop.
Yeah, but yeah, I like the first one. I think the first one holds up in its own way. It's got some cheesy moments to it still, but if you've never seen it, it's 20 years old. It's going to have some weird things going on for it, and the director is a monster, but it is okay. It's an okay movie overall.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah. It like any movie that were past, I'd say 2000, it's got complicated elements throughout it, especially when you get into how they set up sequels and stuff like that. Some of the characters, like the birth of Wolverine as the, like, juggernaut that he would become.
Yeah.
But other than that, I feel like they set up like the idea of who the X-Men are. My cat's in here now.
I will say the running theme, and I knew this a decade ago to begin with, is it's not so bad in the first movie, but 2, 3, and any X-Men movie for the most part forward past Days of Future Past is Wolverine and friends.
I was gonna say that's why I was gonna segue into 2. This was 2000. And then in 2001, the Wolverine Origin comic came out, where it officially gave him his backstory.
Yeah.
Which I can't imagine, because at that point, you know, I'm a kid. I'm just getting into comics. I can't imagine being, like, my age now, and them going like, oh, hey, we're going to tell you finally, like, well, what's up with Wolverine. Like, that's a crazy concept to me. It's like the Death of Superman level of, like, wait, oh, okay.
Yeah, because you
leading into X2, which is essentially a Wolverine movie. Like, you can see everything pivoting around, like, oh, this is the guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, X2 is without a doubt a Wolverine movie first, and then an X-Men movie second. And I remember in the 90s, like, there's him with the helmet on and Weapon X and all of that, and that's all you really knew. That was, like, the most in-depth you knew about him. And then, like you said, Origins came out, and Origins, I think, was, like, a game changer for the lore of that character, and really has solidified what Wolverine is going forward in comics. And this movie clearly wants to borrow some of that, or actually it's more so in Wolverine Origins, the movie, but that's a whole other ball of wax. But this is definitely... Oh, go ahead.
God, we're doing great. I love Zoom calls. So the main things about X2 that everyone thinks back on, I think, are Wolverine and the attack on the mansion, which I think still holds up.
It's my favorite scene of the 3 movies.
Yeah, that's fair. That's probably an easy... Oh, come on, Pepper.
No, it's fine. I can talk for a bit. Of the 3 movies, that scene is probably the best fight sequence for me. But yeah, two's an interesting movie when you think about it, just as a Wolverine movie first, and then an X-Men movie second. There goes Pepper.
Yeah. The only other thing is Nightcrawler. That opening sequence with
That
Nightcrawler
that
I think
would
is also still good. Outside of one slow-mo sequence that is, it's the year 2000. You gotta have your slow-mo.
gotta have your slow mo.
Or it's 2002. Sorry.
The I will say the Nightcrawler opening sequence is really good. That is a very well done
I
scene.
think Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler is another good casting. They actually do more with Nightcrawler in this movie than they ever really do with Nightcrawler, I feel like.
Yeah, I just don't think they knew how to really do Nightcrawler as a character after that movie.
Well, from what I had heard, it was like Alan Cumming really doesn't want to come back, and he doesn't want to do the makeup, so let's just not bring up that he's not here in the next movie. So I always found that was weird. It's the beginning of the inklings of, I don't think Fox cares about continuity.
Yeah. Well, the third movie really proves that. But
yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
I also remember really enjoying Pyro as a kid, because he was an interesting, like, seeing someone actually turn to the other side was fun. And I think for what these movies are, I think a lot of the performances in this one are leagues above the first. Like, this is, for me, the best of the three, obviously.
Oh, yeah. I think we can both agree on that.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, of course, the Stryker.
Stryker is...
I think that's really good casting. That actor is fantastic in everything he's in. Let me just pull up his name again, because I only know him as the guy from the Bourne movies.
No, that's fine. He's fantastic.
Succession,
yeah. He's fantastic as Stryker. One of the other things in this movie that stands out for me is Lady Deathstrike. That whole fight sequence is okay.
Sure. I always found it weird. It's indicative of comic book movies even now, where they go like, hey, you know this character from the books. And I'm like, I do. And they're like, well, we're not really going to do much with her in no she's dead.
I liked the Easter eggs in 2. 2 has a lot of Easter eggs in it.
Yes, when Mystique goes in and they pull up the list of mutants, and it even has Franklin Richards on there, because they technically could have done that at some point.
Franklin Richards could have existed at some point for those, or I guess in that continuity he does. But yeah, X2, I just like the performance from everyone. Stryker is a good antagonist, and the
Brian
way
Cox, that's his name.
Yeah, the way he uses his son as a plot device is really good. And
it's interesting. I think it actually builds that character out more than you get in a lot of the coming X-Men movies. He actually has an interesting reason for doing anything that he's doing, and his link to Wolverine is super compelling.
Yes.
To try and finally get to the root of who Wolverine is, and I think this is the peak of probably X-Men movies, period, is just this movie. Because everything actually comes together and kind of works. Like, I only have a few, like, nitpicks, and it's because of everything that happened afterwards. Like, my nitpicks are like, Colossus could have been in it more.
Yeah, okay.
Like, that's not really a huge complaint. It's just that he's there and then he leaves. And
if I'm gonna nitpick a part, it's when Rogue, who I still hate in this movie, Rogue, Iceman, and Pyro and Logan all end up at Iceman's house, parents' house.
Clumsy.
Yeah, it's not great. And yeah, I can't really nitpick too much else. It's not a perfect movie.
No, by all means, no. But
yeah,
definitely out of these three, I think it actually works. Like, it's slower, that's for sure. The pace is odd.
So
like, it's not an action movie in any sense. There's the beginning opening action stuff with the mansion attack, and then a big lull.
It is my
it is
my second favorite X-Men movie, to put it that way. Because I love Days of Future Past. I know you have issues with that movie compared to...
I think it's the Endgame argument of, like, I couldn't tell my mom to watch Days of Future Past because it literally requires you to have a cursory knowledge of at least 2 to 3 other movies.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. But
that's why I was saying, like, you could show someone X-Men 2 and they get it. It's
yeah,
all right.
And that's what I was going to say. I would never show someone Days of Future Past first, because that is my favorite, but I would at least show them X2 first, because I'm like, I can quickly explain these characters, they're pretty well fleshed out at this point, and everything makes sense with what's going on the screen.
The only other thing there's one other thing I wanted to shout out that I love, and it's the, once Mystique has injected the iron into the guy's blood,
yes,
he comes in and Magneto pulls it out and creates the discs and kills everyone with his orbs and escapes from the plastic prison. That sequence is great still, too. Mm-hmm. Ian McKellen, this was the beginning of, like, oh, I'm pretty sure this actor can do no wrong between this and being Gandalf. Like I think he's maybe the best actor I've ever seen.
Yeah,
10-year-old.
because Patrick Stewart at that point had just done Star Trek Nemesis, I think, which is a bad
Yeah, I
movie.
wasn't a Star Trek kid growing up, so for me that was Professor X, and even getting into the comics, everything at this point from the Wolverine origin comic, everything had centered around like let's just draw them like the movies now.
Yeah,
It's even the story arcs. But the other nitpick I have, besides not really liking Lady Deathstrike, two actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, another movie where they don't give Cyclops anything to do whatsoever. James Marsden's just on set all the time, hanging out in the background of shots, like, "Hey, I could do stuff," and they're like, "No, it's okay."
Cyclops is such a underutilized character in the movies. He's I guess redeemed a little bit in Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix.
Sure.
They're not good movies, but
Yeah.
but
There's none of yeah.
he has more to do in those movies. Whereas in this, it's like Cyclops is supposed to be the de facto leader of the X-Men, and he doesn't feel like the leader of the X-Men. It's
Like, you would see why that guy would go like, "Yeah, I'll just go do another movie. I don't really care if I'm in the third one. Like, I'm barely in this." It's like Alexander Shipp talking about being Storm, where she's like, "Look, I show up to set, but like, I'm not really acting. I'm just there."
Yeah, exactly. This is a quick question. I have to circle back to the first X-Men movie. There's a sequence when Rogue is in the classrooms, and it pans towards some of the people sitting there. There is a girl in a fucking bright yellow trench coat. Is that supposed to be Jubilee?
Yeah, Jubilee's there. Kitty Pryde's there.
Okay. I wasn't sure how many of other like characters are supposed to be there. You just aren't told that.
Well, yeah, Jubilee's still a child. She's still there and still in school. Because also in the '80s, she also arrived.
Yeah.
Yeah, the timelines totally make sense.
No, yeah, totally. We'll get there.
The other thing that is just odd, especially, and this will segue into 3, is the Phoenix setup. I buy Jean's death. It's weird because you'd think also, like, can't Storm make like a tornado that Doctor Strange is the water up? There's a bunch of other things you could probably do. But she dies, and that's fine, and it shows the Phoenix symbol, and back in 2002 or whenever, 03, it's like, oh man, this next one's gonna be incredible.
Oh,
they're gonna finally do it. They're
doing
the Phoenix stuff.
Yeah, no. I remember my uncle freaking out when that happened. So a lot of my early movie going days, like from 1998 to 2004, are just going to the movies with my uncle, and that between him being disappointed with, I've seen the two levels of disappointment and extreme excitement. The Phoenix was extreme excitement, seeing that like flashed. And the extreme disappointment is seeing Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, with him in theaters.
Yeah, those are some highs and lows.
Yeah.
Ugh. I guess, yeah, so leading into 3, I think the conclusion from 2 is it can be done. You can make a self-contained X-Men movie that works on pretty much every level. You can't give every character a thing to do. It's kind of like Infinity War or even Endgame at points where there's, like Bucky doesn't, I think he's got 2 lines in Infinity War. Like,
yeah.
Certain characters won't get their time to shine, and that's fine, but it is weird the ones they choose to focus on and who they bring into the fold. Like, Pyro is an interesting choice, and so many of these things are just abandoned with X3.
I think...
And I don't know how much Bryan Singer was involved in the story and creation of all that.
Yeah, so I think...
They drop off so many story threads, and then the idea of replacing him with Brett Ratner is like, I mean, at least they kept continuity and hiring garbage.
Yeah, I have to assume with, like, bringing Pyro more into the fold has to do with, at the time, I think X-Men Evolutions was, like, the big cartoon.
Good cartoon.
It's actually a really good X-Men cartoon. And if I'm not mistaken, he was one of the focal point characters in it, along with Avalanche and like a few others.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But no, X2 it's a good comic book movie. You'll explain who the characters are. But it is, like I said, it's Wolverine and friends because it's more of Wolverine's story than an X-Men story.
I mean, well, I hate to tell you about the next one then.
Oh.
Welcome to X-Men 3, Wolverine and Friends' Last Stand.
Yeah, before we get into it, I want to take a quick break because I need to use the restroom, so...
I'm gonna get water.
Yeah, we'll be right back. Okay, we are back. Catching up on comments really quick. Lightbender says, I got a small scholarship from Brett Ratner while in film school, and I remember being so happy because I loved X-Men growing up, and then not too long later, all the terrible news about him started coming out. Yeah, that's pretty fair.
Yeah, it's got to be unfortunate, but also, that's the thing is that was an example of like someone I knew was a scumbag from like back when Olivia Munn spoke out years ago. Like it was a not so open secret that he was just a pile of garbage.
Oh yeah.
So it was so weird that it took so long for him to like. I remember Gal Gadot saying, "Hey, take his company logo off of Wonder Woman, or else like you could figure out how to get another Wonder Woman." Like people started using leverage against him because Hollywood wasn't doing it.
No, yeah, he's like even The Rock has said shit about him. Because he did that Hercules movie in 2014. That's like the last thing he directed, I think. Actually, yeah, that is the last thing he directed.
Yeah. So yet another case of an X-Men movie made by someone who's just.
So on to X3, made by another trash director.
This is another one that makes a lot of weird choices and just shows that Fox is. I don't know. I know there were executives in charge of this, but no Kevin Feige overseeing where we're going with this. It was just, let's make another movie. Let's make one more movie. Who cares what happens past that? So this one opens with another interesting choice of Angel as a teenager self-mutilating and cutting off his wings.
Yep, I remember that. I vividly remember that.
It's a strong choice for this movie, and interesting to bring Angel in, but not have him really say or do much of anything. Just kind of be present as visual imagery, I guess.
He's kind of just there.
Yeah. And then you get Scott quitting the team and leaving so he can go be in, trash human being across the board.
Accurate. Yeah, for sure.
Scott quitting the team so that he can go and die so he can be in Superman Returns with Bryan Singer. Another movie that's a mess in, oh wow, now that I think about it, a lot of ways. But
Kevin Spacey's in that too.
Yeah, that's where, yep.
Yeah.
But Scott disappearing just to die, going up to Alkali Lake to find... So, I don't know, the Phoenix in this seems to be mental illness. Like, it's not another earthly thing, it's mental blocks that he's set up to a dark part that calls herself the Phoenix.
Yeah, and she's...
she kills her boyfriend who loves her because she's evil and he has to be in another movie, so they don't have...
They gotta write him out. Yeah.
That many days, you gotta write him out. He can't be in this movie.
Yeah, and the whole, there's two plots going on in this movie. There's stopping Jean Grey as the Dark Phoenix, and then there is the option of being cured. Yeah, being cured of being a mutant. And I guess I don't know. One of those one or the other is a movie by itself. Both of them together are like a mess.
It's a classic third movie syndrome of, let's put like 4 villains in it. Let's add just too much to this.
Basically. And Magneto is a bad character in this movie.
Yes. I think there's only 2 good things in this movie.
Okay.
And it's the casting for Fraser McCoy.
Yes.
As the Beast.
That is perfect.
And Ellen Page as Kitty Pryde, I think, is good casting. It's very unfortunate that set was that set and that person was that person and all of that. But I think, in theory, her as Kitty Pryde could be really good.
I think she would be great. And the only issue, though, I have with Kitty Pryde in that movie is it just is a love triangle between...
Oh, no, not in the movie. No, I meant her, in theory, playing Kitty Pryde could be very good.
Oh, well, so... I'm not gonna.
What they've done with her in the movie.
Yeah. I'm not gonna railroad too much of this conversation, but I've been watching Umbrella Academy with Emily. Inspector Reels. No, that's. So here, Lightbender, you can maybe help us name the podcast. We originally called it Frames Per Second. There's a couple bigger Frames Per Second podcasts, and we're not going to step on toes, especially because we're little and have no clout. So we need help with a name. If you have something that works, let us know. But anyway, I've been watching Umbrella Academy, and I forgot that Ellen Page is actually like a really good actress.
Yeah, Super is a really good movie that James Gunn did that maybe not everyone should check out. If you like weird,
I like
fucked
Super.
up James Gunn movies, yes, but you can understand why you can't give a blanket recommendation to Super. I
Yeah.
love it, but like it, I love
Well,
Midsummer.
You know what? Watch
Some of you watching maybe don't watch Midsummer. I
Yeah,
don't know.
watch Slither first, and then go watch.
No, I think you should just watch both.
That's fair. Just watch both. But yeah, no. She, in theory, like you said, would be a good Kitty Pryde.
But yeah, it's a third movie of not really knowing what to do with Rogue past her introduction. Where I guess she just loves Bobby so much that she needs to be able to have a sexual relationship with him because that's the most important thing. But also, he's ice skating with the other girl, and he can touch her. I better leave, and I'll show up at the end and be like, I did it.
It just baffled me with that character to not develop her anything past what she was in the first movie. Like, she's just there to touch, drain your powers, and be done with you. And
it almost feels like it's not part of the same franchise for so many of the characters to just be doing different things.
Yeah, and Anna Paquin's range as Rogue is so limited to the material she's given. Like, she's just there to be mopey and not give a fuck about anything else.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because there's the two spokes of the movie where it's like Phoenix and the Cure.
Yes.
And I think for Phoenix, it's interesting because once you have Scott die, you have the scene with Professor X's death.
God.
Which is weird because meta knowing, that like Halle Berry said she wouldn't come back unless she had more of a role in the movie. So they have to kill off Professor X, and Scott can't be the team leader. He's also gone, so she can be the team leader. So we have to kill off this character for no reason whatsoever. Then to later suggest in a post-credit scene that he jumped into another body and another consciousness, then to later have him just show up in Days of Future Past with a body and never talk about it.
No, he appears at the end of Wolverine Origins.
Yeah, but that was the 80s.
I keep forgetting.
Here he died.
No.
I jumped into another body.
You're right. I keep forgetting.
Yep. Which is a thing you can do. And maybe you can say that it's actually a different body and he's mentally projecting what he looks like. Well, why would you mentally project that you're in a wheelchair if you're walking away? Like, they don't care. They don't care. This movie doesn't care anymore. This is where Fox starts going, hey, after this, make a reboot movie. All right, in this one, they're all really good friends with Mystique.
Yeah.
We never did that before, but I don't care.
Well, it's because Days of Future Past is supposed to fix...
No, because it's not the Trunks timeline rules, because they all fix the problem, and the problem is solved in both timelines simultaneously. The timelines exist in tandem with each other, but they are not the same.
No, I know.
It doesn't make any sense.
I'm saying the purpose of Days of Future Past is supposed to eliminate...
It's supposed to.
Yes, it makes more problems, but it's supposed to eliminate the problems. But back to the movie.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the moment Professor X dies, I think as a teenager, I was just like, what the fuck is going on with this film?
Mm-hmm. Because you've also had the Juggernaut introduced by that point.
Oh, God. That's a character that does not need to be in that fucking movie.
You could do him in the movie, like the way they did him in Deadpool. I think they kind of pulled it off.
Oh, it's great in Deadpool.
Yeah, but here, it's just terrible. And I don't know, the idea of Jean just being... she's crazy. She's so strong. No one's ever seen a mutant so strong. And we put up the blockers. Now the blockers are down. So she's going to have all black eyes and her skin's going to turn translucent. And her hair is now down to like her lower back. And it's like cartoon red. It's not even real hair anymore. And she's going to go out into the woods after she kills her teacher. And then another point that I hate, when... Mystique gets hit by the Cure bullets and loses her powers, and especially knowing what we know from future movies, Eric going, "You're just a human now. Why would I help you?" And that's it. That's the end of that character that we've known for 3 movies. That was like his second in command, and maybe they were in a weird relationship. No one really knew. Oh, well, she's gone now.
Yeah, dude, it's wild. So the budget for Last Stand is astronomical. Way more than I thought it would be for a movie in like 2000 and... What, 2006, $210. $210 million. Sorry.
$210.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
$210 million in 2006 is like, that's a huge
like,
budget.
If you think about it, there's the only sequence I actually kind of like in the movie is the opening when Colossus does the fastball special and they tease what a Sentinel kind of looks like in the background.
Oh yeah, you get the danger room. You actually get the danger room in this movie.
Yeah, for a second, kind of. So that's something, and then I really like when Iceman finally goes full Iceman after 3 full movies.
Yeah.
And outside of the Alcatraz bridge, those are your 3 big like CGI set piece money moments.
The stuff.
I guess the house destruction.
The house destruction is cool. The things that I like or remember fondly are Kelsey Grammer is Beast. That just works for me.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's good
casting.
That's...
Kitty Pryde. The use of the Kitty Pryde powers I thought was pretty good when they use them. It's just like that role is squandered.
Chase kind of works. But
yeah, it kind of.
The beginning of what is the power of the internet, where the "I'm the Juggernaut bitch" meme became. No, he said that in the movie.
He did. He did say that.
It.
Yeah. It's. I don't know.
I think the problem is the two plot lines. You can kind of buy the Jean plot line, which kind of comes together because she's just standing next to Magneto as he's doing his Cure storyline, so they happen to coalesce. But then jumping back to the Cure storyline, the Warren Worthington's family makes the mutant cure, which Rogue now wants, and Magneto's super against. So it all comes to a head in a war over a child because Leech from the comics is now just a bald kid who looks like Aang.
Yeah, I forgot that was Leech.
Yeah, and so they're using his powers to drain other people's powers. And Magneto wants to go and kill him. But also Jean's here because she was hanging out with Magneto and he was going over there, and like, why split up? They're in the same carpool, so whatever. Like, why are these two things the same? Why does this meet up at all? Oh yeah,
and then like the amount of like other mutants that are in the movie that are just squandered is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. I still remember liking the X-Men Evolution cartoon. Spike was a big one in that. I think his name was, and he's Marrow or whatever, but he has the like bone spikes that come out. He fights Wolverine for like a second in the woods, and I was like, that's so cool. And then Wolverine murders him, and I was like, never mind.
Multiple Man's in the movie for like a second, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's one of those movies where I'm going to assume one of the two was the Singer script, like either probably Dark Phoenix, and then The Cure is the studio and everyone else be like, we gotta like push all his shit out and just do this.
Yeah, but then the problem comes when you get Dark Phoenix, which is written by the same guy, and it's just as nasty.
I don't know. I don't even view her as the Phoenix in that movie. She reminds me more of oh god, it's not. Is it Goblin Queen? Is that her name?
Oh, Madeline Pryor. Yeah.
Yeah, that's more what the vibe I got.
That makes sense, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be better. Like, that's the thing. It's just nothing about the entire movie is quality besides, I'd say, Hugh Jackman's performance.
He's great.
He's nailed who Wolverine is by this one, I think.
Yes.
But other than that. So that's why I wondered. I saw the results of the poll, and I assumed most people agreed. Best movie is X-Men 2, then X-Men 1, then X-Men 3. And that's, I assume, pretty much everyone's opinion across the board.
Yeah, and it's X-Men 2, X-Men 1, X-Men 3. X-Men 3, I didn't even get to watch it. I just watched a review of it. And the parts that were talked about in the review were the parts that I distinctly remember hating as a kid. I remember going to see it in theaters and the power going out. And I was like, this is a blessing.
Sign from God.
Yeah, and I got my free movie pass, and then I went and watched something else later in the year. It's just such a disastrous movie. Like, I was more excited to go watch X2 in theaters than I was this movie.
And then you can also see after X3 and then Wolverine Origins, like, the audiences stopped going. Like, people got burned enough times that it tanked.
Yeah, and that's, I think, why the Marvel movie, like the MCU movies, they haven't hit the peak yet. I mean, you've maybe peaked in terms of where the story goes in terms of going forward, but in terms of like people churning out and going to see them, I don't think you've hit that peak yet because you haven't been burned yet.
true mentally, yes. I think we may have hit the peak because of how the world is.
Yes.
But other than that, yes, I think Endgame might have been their peak. But so I wrote down things about the overall impact of these movies, and I think big picture, it's so the Singer allegations and Brett Ratner as well all cloud all of this into a giant storm of Fox has no idea what they're doing, and now they are Disney now, our overlords, but from hiring a director like that, keeping a director like that, hiring a different director still like that, and having 3 scripts that are haphazardly kind of slapdash thrown together, a second one that kind of like magically worked in some way that they just thought, we can keep just kind of tossing them together. Continuity being thrown away by whatever the movie needs to have at the moment. And characters that are characters in name only. Like, just because fans know who that character is. It just shows that Fox really, Fantastic Four is a separate conversation, but like just didn't ever have any kind of plan or forethought on how to make any of these movies. They just went, well, it's a license, make a movie based on it. Who really cares? Oh, did it do well? We'll make another. Oh, it did well? We'll make another. Oh, it did well? We'll make a bunch of origin movies. But then when we release the first one, people will hate them so much that we won't do any more.
Yeah, it's weird. Bigger picture for me is you basically created a cesspool of hatred with those 2 directors for those first 3 movies, and then you do Matthew Vaughn for Origins, and then yet you somehow in your head think it's okay to bring Singer back and leave him. Like, that's my thing, is like you fueled the monster, you created the monster that we have to hear about.
Bohemian Rhapsody, even up until then, he was still listed on Red Sonja until he got that job revoked, and now maybe we're finally past him getting jobs.
Well, yeah, because he got yoinked off of Bohemian Rhapsody. He still got the credit for it, which I think is bullshit, but...
Well, no, he just stopped showing up. He didn't get pulled off. He just had the guy who directed Dexter Fletcher, the guy who directed Rocketman, directed most of Bohemian Rhapsody because he just wasn't around.
Yeah, and then he got removed from Phoenix? No, not Phoenix, Apocalypse, right?
No, Apocalypse, he was also just kind of hanging out and not doing much.
I have the list.
It was Dark Phoenix he got removed from, and I think it was part of Jennifer Lawrence, her contract saying, I won't do another one unless Kinberg directs, because that would be a terrible idea. Oh, they're doing it? Damn it. I have to be a Dark Phoenix now.
Well, yeah, I mean, Jennifer Lawrence needs to get her bag of money and be on her way out.
Yeah.
Those are other conversations. But yeah, I think the bigger picture is, like, how did Fox not get a formula down when the Spider-Man movies were just popping off with box office success?
Well, I think they mirror each other perfectly. If X1 and Spider-Man 1, a decent foundation for where we can go.
Yeah.
X-Men 2 and Spider-Man 2, at the time, people thinking this is the pinnacle of superhero cinema. And then Spider-Man 3 and X-Men 3, the studio has too many ideas the director doesn't want to do in one case, or that the director is a dirtbag in the other case. And they just fall under the weight of bloated superhero garbage.
That's fair.
Like, the only other things that I think there's the Wolverine, Professor X, and Magneto are the 3 strong things from these movies.
Yes.
And they all spin out in different ways, like to the point that we almost got like a Michael Fassbender solo Magneto Nazi Hunter movie. They folded that into First Class because Wolverine Origins was so terrible.
I do wonder if that Magneto origin story would have been good or not.
I mean, from the one scene in First Class, I think so, but... And then the only other things is leather and self-seriousness. Like, what's... even in the comics from then on, what's Wolverine's signature thing? He just wears a wife beater and jeans.
Yeah,
He's just hanging out.
No one
wears their costumes. We're too cool for that. Let's wear leather jackets, drive motorcycles.
I almost want to say that their failure is a blueprint for everything that happens after Iron Man 1, because Iron Man 1 is still of... in my opinion, is still of that generation of hero movies, because it is 2009. Is that Iron Man 1?
2008.
2008. So it is of that era still for me. And then when the Avengers stuff and like all the Phase 1 movies start like rolling out, I think they look at those as the blueprint of what you should do and what you shouldn't do, almost.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I mean, I remember not liking X3 that much as a kid, but, all of them have aged in different ways poorly, and especially from the sheer amount of superhero movies we have now.
Yeah.
It's just remarkably in just those 3 characters that then get blown out into a ton of other movies. But, like, honestly, if they ended at X3, which almost they should have, I just
Yeah, and
overall,
then they like money. Studios like money, so
yeah, and I think that shows the most because like you get who you can get back. Halle Berry wants this, or she won't come back. This character wants this, they won't come back. So fine, we'll spin that around. Hey, we got a cast together? Oh, well, Jennifer Lawrence is in it. Well, now she's Hunger Games, so now she's the main character. Like it just Fox. I don't think ever for a lot of their studio stuff, like their big picture stuff, not Fox Searchlight and their independent things, but I don't think they have ever really cared. You know, like Alien Covenant and Prometheus seem like sometimes they'll give a filmmaker carte blanche when they shouldn't, and then other times it seems like they're saying like, no, but why? Like, why? What studio exec was like, The Cure is the storyline for this, and then the writer's like, no, we want to do Phoenix, and they're like, you do both of them.
Yeah,
who cared about these movies at so barely that these are the three we got.
It's hard to say because they gave Brett Ratner the $210 million budget and said, go do whatever you want. We don't care.
No.
Make your movie.
No.
And it's funny of taking out Spider-Man 2 and the first Spider-Man movie, and you just leave me with X-Men, Blade, and Daredevil. I would probably watch the Blade 2 first, then Daredevil, and then X2.
But Blade 2, then Blade 1. Then
Yeah.
X2, then Daredevil.
Yeah.
Daredevil has that weird R-rated cut too. That's interesting, at least. But
yeah.
I think it's just very indicative of what the 2000s were like. It's essentially still the 90s, but we try to think that we're cooler than that. So
Yeah.
we're all doing Matrix leather and techno music and slow-mo fights.
I almost wonder if we were close to ever getting like a Kevin Smith superhero movie in the early 2000s.
It was the Superman Lives, the Nick Cage, Tim Burton Superman. It was right in that.
I forgot about that. I forgot that exists.
No.
But yeah, early 2000s heroes movies I think will always be a weird place in time because of what they evolve into within the next decade.
It's especially interesting because at the time, like, no one was like, X2 is kind of flawed, but it's a fun movie. They were like, no, this is the best superhero movie that we've ever gotten. Like, this is amazing. These can be so good. And it's just incredible that now we're at Endgame where it's like, oh, no, those could be a lot more than that, or even Logan or Batman v Superman if you're a weirdo. I don't know. You know, everyone has a movie that they think Dark Knight is, is of this. But literally for a time, X-Men 1 and then X-Men 2 were like two of the best superhero movies, just period.
Yeah,
now looking back on them, like even '89 Batman, I think certain things have aged in different ways, but so much from behind the scenes to just the writing of the characters to the continuity. X-Men 1 to 2 to 3 kind of is indicative of where they were going to go from here on out.
Yeah, and I guess X-Men is the blueprint, not a blueprint, but it's the starting point for where everything wants to go. Because Spider-Man, I think Spider-Man's important, but I don't think it's as important for what X-Men was trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Because X-Men, if it been done correctly, you could have gotten multiple solo movies and had an Avengers universe within itself. But since there's like one guy who decides like, all right, we're gonna do a Wolverine movie, we're gonna put Cyclops in it.
Yeah,
but then that breaks everything once he sees Sabretooth, who was like, they don't care. They just never cared, it seems.
No, and it's a shame. I think one of the things for me going forward is I want to talk about the Blade movies and Daredevil and Spider-Man, all as
everything that got us to the
MCU, I don't know if I want to break down the movies per se, but I just want to talk about like 2000 superhero movies as a whole and what leads you to the MCU, because I think Iron Man was going to just be its own thing if not for that little bit at the end.
They did, yeah. They added that, I think, in reshoots, because they were talking to Sam Jackson and trying to iron everything out. But yeah, it's interesting because X-Men 1, sets up sequels, but not in the usual universe bloat that we get now with the DCEU or whatever.
Yeah,
an extended universe there is now. But
and one of the things I want to see happen is, because as a kid, I think Marvel's biggest heroes were Spider-Man for sure. Wolverine, I think, was up there.
Yeah, those were the two.
Yeah. and now Wolverine, I think, isn't even like as popular as he used to be. I could be wrong on that.
I mean, in the current X-Men stuff, he's not as... there's not, like, 3 Wolverine solo books going at once like there usually are. But I'm sure if you asked, like, a regular person on the street, that's still Spider-Man, Wolverine, now Iron Man and Captain America and Thor and stuff, so there might be more in the mix, but I think Wolverine is still, like, you could get any actor and then put the claws on him, and people on the internet would be like... There would be takes across the board.
For sure.
So they're going to cast.
So, here we go. You are in charge of casting for the next X-Men movie that is going to be tied into the MCU, however they choose to introduce it, whether it be through the Scarlet Witch TV show or the Doctor Strange movie that is eventually going to happen. Who are you casting for your Professor X, and what other X-Men are you going to choose for your team? And Wolverine has to be in it because the studio executive said so.
Sure. I think Lakeith Stanfield would be a really good Professor X.
Okay.
Cyclops, you just need some dude to wear a visor, so that's tougher because...
Jai Courtney.
Well, I also don't know, like, I would go younger with it. I would actually do what Apocalypse was trying to do, but didn't really do, is actually have it be the school and all that. That's the tough thing. Because I also don't know what mutants I would necessarily do, because they've burned every single possible thing. So even if I'm trying to think of who they haven't done, there's only like 3 or 4, and I wouldn't make that my main team. I think Taron Egerton would be a good Wolverine if you're going, movie handsome Wolverine. I don't know of any actors that are
he would be good.
Kind of ugly and hairy enough to be the Wolverine that I actually want in my head.
I'm trying to think of who I'd pick for Wolverine. I think Edgerton is actually a really good choice. Tom Hardy, I think a decade ago might have been okay.
Yeah, at this point, I don't think they want another old Wolverine. I think we would want to go even younger, but I don't know. And also, it's going to be weird when you're making movies about a guy who doesn't age with an actor that's aged over a decade. Like, it worked for Logan, but that's different.
Yeah. I mean, Logan is the perfect storm of, like, sending off a character, finally.
And also, a lot of the casting, like, I think Alexandra Shipp as Storm could be really cool, or Ellen Page as Kitty Pryde could be really cool, but they squandered so many different shots at this that if I was, like, working for Kevin Feige, I'd literally be like... I'd be reading a lot of, like, 70s and 80s stuff trying to think of who hasn't been done, because, like, even Jubilee, like... multiple characters multiple times have been squandered. I would want Rogue to be in it, but then at the same time, do you want to do all of that again? Like, it'd be interesting to do a whole Captain Marvel, actually get Rogue to where we would expect Rogue to be. But do you want to set up a new movie series about X-Men that is, in a sense, the same X-Men movie series?
I guess it's more so what is the movie going to be is the problem. And I
don't know what you're carrying over. If you're gonna do a First Class thing, since that's what's rumored, like an Iceman, Beast, Angel, Cyclops, Jean Grey, those 5. That's a choice. I think you'd have to change things up drastically, but you also have to explain why no one knows who the X-Men are. So I think that's the big hook that I'd have to get my mind around before I could even cast, is because, like, in my head, like, Lakeith Stanfield is young enough that he could be like I've used my Professor X powers to, like, keep things away hidden from people, but also if mutants are just genetically born, then, like, that's you have to assume it's some multiverse thing, and then the sky's the limit. Colossus doesn't have to be Russian. He can be from, I don't know, Latin America, and Cannonball could be one of the main people.
Yeah.
More of the New Mutants people, but also New Mutants hasn't come out yet, and if that does really well, then they'll probably try to adopt some of these, because, like, Maisie Williams as Wolfsbane is really good casting. The girl from Split, Anya Taylor-Joy as Magic, is really good casting.
I'm excited about that.
Those are characters and performances that I'd like to see hopefully be more, but, I don't know how the MCU is going to handle the fact that, people already know these things. Apocalypse has been squandered. I'd love to do, like, Archangel and stuff, but, like, they've done that twice now. So many times. Even Deadpool, which is good now, has been done twice. Sabretooth has been done twice. Beast has been done twice. Havoc has been done once, and it wasn't good. Psylocke, no. Nightcrawler, twice.
Okay. Hear me out. There's two ways I'd go about doing my movie. Either higher evolution
Mm-hmm.
or Nimrod is a thing.
Yeah.
Big pink evil robot monster. Hank Pym can make it too. Let's just go on. No, Hank Pym won't make it because of that. Hank Pym is in it. No. Ultron somehow still exists and morphs into Nimrod. I don't know.
I mean, you could do a higher evolutionary thing, but
Yeah.
then inherently Wolverine isn't Wolverine. He's a guy who somehow just got his powers, and maybe the government did the bones part, but you need him to be a mutant before you do that. So how does that even? Professor X and Magneto, unless you're starting a new 2020 version of their argument, has to be grounded in civil rights decisions and things like that. You know what I mean? That's why I think it's interesting, and why I think if it is Madness of the Multiverse, Scarlet Witch stuff that gets us there.
Yeah, as I was going to say, I think either Scarlet Witch or a combination of Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange pull it all together and make things move into each other's timelines, or however it works now in comics, it's all Earth Prime or whatever.
Because I'd love Phantom X or Polaris. There's a lot of different mutants you could do, but realistically we're going to get, the rumor is, Shia LaBeouf as Iceman, and just these 5 that we already know, and maybe he'll be full Iceman by the end of it.
Yeah,
I want to hit the point where, Iron Man, when he had a nanotech suit in the comics, I want the full Bobby Drake Iceman that can make an ice golem that can go and do things.
Yeah.
He ice slides everywhere, not people struggling to learn their powers as everyone has a mutant gene activated across the world.
If I had to guess, I think Disney and maybe more so Feige want to prove they can do the X-Men stuff correct and then expand from it from there. Because that then adds new movies into phase, I don't even care. Whatever MCU solo story you want to do. And then you also get more crossovers and stuff like that. Because it seems like the MCU movies are very open to having other characters in their films now and making it work that way.
And X-Men is perfect for that, because you get random team-ups all the time. I would still love the X-Force movie that theoretically could have come out in another world with Ryan Reynolds. No one even knows that Deadpool's really coming back. So, I think those are the questions that even before I could fan cast, I'd need ironed out of how they're even going to do this. And also, on the timeline that we had before, there were still no X-Men, and now everything has been delayed due to COVID. So, what is it, 2024?
Yeah, the
Wolverine in a movie,
There was a Hollywood Reporter article from a month ago where Ryan Reynolds is no, there is talks of Deadpool 3 happening. We just aren't quite there yet for where we want to be. And I'm okay, that's fine.
So that's interesting, and you can bring people over from the other stuff, but then I don't think the MCU wants the baggage of saying any of those movies matter. So
if they're gonna say any of those movies, yeah, no, they're the
Deadpool.
Yeah, they'll say Deadpool matters because Deadpool is a shit ton of money for them still. And that has goodwill left in it with the fans to make people go see that. And Deadpool is the Marvel version of Joker. Of everyone loves
our R-rated thing. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone loves a character for the wrong reasons, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and then since we're kind of drifting off of the topic of X-Men, DC fandom is coming up.
Yeah, I also saw it trending on Twitter. It seems like a lot of layoffs are happening at DC simultaneously. So.
Oh, great, lovely.
Yeah. But yeah, that's supposedly, I think it's in a week or two.
Yeah,
definitely this month.
So Shazam 2 is gonna be there, so that's a thing. And then the one I'm curious about is Black Adam. They're apparently showing something off for that.
Yeah, The Rock's supposed to be there, so.
So
we'll see.
Yeah, it's just weird. I don't have that love for DC stuff anymore that I did when I was a teenager.
No, I don't think there's anything that they're gonna show there. Suicide Squad, I think I'm excited to watch. Wonder Woman would have been out by now.
I think
that'll be cool to watch eventually. I would be surprised if they announce that it's coming out worldwide at a certain time, and then for us maybe we can rent it. But
I think you're getting some Batman stuff. I assume something's going to be shown off.
Yeah, I would hope that there's a teaser at least for that, or a poster or something. That'll be interesting. But in terms of the like not Batman things that they've got announced, like Black Adam is, to me, it's more weird that it's a standalone movie already that isn't really linked into Shazam that much.
That baffles me because those two go like hand in hand with one another.
And then Shazam 2 could be interesting if they have any actual info on that.
Yeah, I
liked
liked
filming at all.
No, I don't think so. I liked the first one enough that I'd be interested in a second one. The Flashpoint movie, I guess, is going to have something there as well.
Sure. I mean, they do have Keaton now, and I guess even though after the Ezra Miller stuff, I guess they are keeping him.
That's
so
shocking.
Theoretically, that movie is real, but I won't believe it until they're filming it and then it's released, because I feel like I've been hearing about that movie since, oh boy,
Batman v
BVS
Superman,
2016. Yeah, it's been 4 years of, no, it's a real movie. Cyborg's getting a movie too, and if you ask the dude who plays Cyborg, he has some thoughts on that. So I don't think that's happening either.
I'm shocked at how hard he's like. Whedon's not a great person. I think we've learned that in the grand scheme of things. I'm just shocked how hard he slammed Whedon. After like years after the movie, is the more.
That's what I'm saying is I think we're getting to a time and age, especially with COVID and everything else, where previous social norms don't matter anymore because, people are here and people are people, and if they're being mistreated in any way, they shouldn't be, and if people are being enabled who are doing that, they shouldn't be.
Well,
so
yeah,
I can understand, especially like when John Boyega went out and spoke for Black Lives Matter, and he was like, "I don't care if I don't get work after this because this is separate." I think that's part of it.
Yeah,
especially as the Snyder Cut stuff is ramping up, and people are going to do the thing of listening to old interviews and going like, "Well, why'd you say this then?" And I like that he took a step out and went like, "No, I actually don't want to say any of it." Like no one else has really joined him on that.
Well, yeah,
like Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot and Jason Momoa. But I think no one's refuting it besides.
Well, yeah, and the Whedon being brought on, it was always such a weird thing for me with that movie. I thought it was a desperate attempt to grab the person they thought was the architect of the MCU stuff, to a degree at that time, and hope he can come in and like salvage what they thought was a disaster, because Justice League in and of itself is a disaster of a movie. And I don't know if the Snyder Cut will make it any better or worse than what it already is.
Oh, I think it's 100% guaranteed to be better than what we got in theaters. But I think that's another separate conversation.
Yeah, we'll get to that eventually, because our mutual friend fell asleep while watching that movie, and that tells you all you need to know. But yeah, I don't have much more to share.
I think the first 3 X-Men movies are we've done enough.
Yeah, there's we talked about the parts we want to talk about, and we know what the ranking is. It's X2, X1, X3. Maybe later in the year we can do Origins, First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and Phoenix.
Oof, yeah, it'll be a fun day.
A Phoenix I might skip. Phoenix I can probably skip because I vividly remember that movie still.
Yeah. I don't know. That's the thing is like even I've seen they've started adding like Fantastic Four to Disney Plus and stuff like that. As they start adopting more Fox stuff, I know X-Men Apocalypse is on there. Like
X2's not on there. Like that's the thing. Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch X2 today. Oh, guess I'm not.
I wonder how much Disney and Marvel embrace that aspect of it, because even in the comics there was so long that the Fantastic Four and X-Men were sidelined because they didn't own those 100% in the movie rights, so they didn't want to do advertising for them. And now that the X-Men are even currently active in current Marvel continuity, it's kind of a total reset, so it doesn't even apply to the MCU. It would be impossible to do that with an actual movie, so they're in a really interesting spot of how they're going to adapt the X-Men from here. And to see more to come, hopefully in WandaVision or Doctor Strange.
I want to see where the X-Men go. I love that they're more prominently featured in the comics. I think House of X and Powers of X really got me excited about comics again for the first time in a while. And Fantastic Four is still like in an awkward place when it comes to their comics. So I'm curious as to see how they'll fit as well in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, well, they have a event book coming up. Empire is active right now. That's a Fantastic Four event book, so they're central in the current stuff, but I haven't been reading it, so I can't speak to it.
But... Yeah, nice. I actually just read Red Goblin finally this past weekend. because I had the trade back for it, and I was like, oh, I'll finally read this. That was good. That was a really good like end to the slot.
Good set off. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that was, for me, a good finish to the slot era of Spider-Man, which I think is, like, probably one of the best Spider-Man runs, maybe?
Yeah, it's the longest, I believe. So.
Because he had it for almost, what, a decade?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Give or take, yeah. I do think that's when I think of modern Spider-Man, that's who I think of, definitely. Whether it's the video game or even what they're kind of building towards in the movies. It's definitely the slot run.
That's, movie-wise, I do actually want to see how that, like, pans out when it's all said and done. But yeah, I don't have anything else. I don't have an idea for what we're doing for the next week. Maybe we'll do a ranking of something.
We'll find out.
Yeah, I haven't put too much thought into it because I was like, I don't want to watch the Blade movies just yet. I'm not quite mentally ready for those.
Yeah, no. We should stagger all the superhero stuff so it's not just 9 weeks in a row.
Yeah, but we'll come back with something. We'll be back next Monday. I don't have anything else. Hopefully we'll have a name as well for the podcast.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That'd be great. But anyways, I'm Kyle. This is Dan.
I'm Dan.
Yep. We will see you all next Monday. Have a great rest of the evening, everybody. Goodbye.
Good luck.